Welcome to Autism Knows No Borders, a podcast where people connected to autism inspire change and build community. Together with the Global Autism Project, I'm your host, Rachel Harmon, a professional with over a decade of experience in the field of autism services, outreach, and advocacy. This week's episode is part 2 of our 2025 highlights. Today, we'll continue to review some of our favorite moments from this year's episodes, specifically from 230 to 240. In this episode, discover what's possible when a fresh start brings new perspectives. And now, I present you the Global Autism community. In episodes 230 and 232, we brought you Megan Ashley, a licensed professional counselor who provides support to women, people of color, autistic individuals, and clients with intersectional identities. In the following clips, Megan talks about what she describes as, quote, neurodivergent life equations, as well as common challenges parents face when trying to understand their autistic children.
I love if-then statements because it gives you rules to live by. And I tell people all the time that you have a faulty me manual. So the manual for how to live your life, you probably have a faulty one because it's been a hand-me-down. It's been from somebody else's me manual, the way they would like to live their lives. And we always get them. We get them from friends, from parents, from religion, from wherever you get those rules for life. But especially after an autism diagnosis or even questioning if you're autistic, most times you're going to need new rules to live your life by because the old ones just don't work. You've been measuring yourself against a yardstick that does not measure you. It measures neurotypical people, and that's a regular yardstick, but ours is built like a curly Q. And so you're never going to measure out the way you think you should because you're using the wrong tool. And so with these if-then statements, you can give yourself better tools that actually relate to who you are and what you need in your life. So like we were just talking about with the waking up, an if-then statement would be, if I need to be awake before 10 a.m., then I have my sunlight alarm set. I have my coffee maker automatically set to a certain time so I can smell the coffee when I'm waking up. I will also have my outfit already laid out the night before because I know that if I don't do those things, then I'm going to be rushing in the morning and whatever I was supposed to be doing prior to 10 a.m., it won't feel good for me. So if-then statements. If this is happening, then this is what I do. Those are the rules, period. I don't have to negotiate with myself in that morning. I don't have to convince myself of what I need to do. And more importantly, I don't have to think because it's so important with autistic individuals. If we can have things that are more routine, then we don't have to think through every step. We don't have to think through every single thing that we're doing. And we use our brains so much already to take in sensory information that taking away that extra decision helps us so much. We get so much decision fatigue.
So Megan, let's talk a little bit about your work. In your coaching with parents, what's a common struggle parents face when trying to understand their autistic children?
The biggest one I see is that they project what they would think and what they would do in that situation onto their kids. And I'll give you an example. You're running late for work and school, and you are telling your kids to put their shoes on, right? And it's always the shoes. You tell your kids, put your shoes on. You've got your backpack, you got your breakfast, you got everything else. The last thing I need you to do is put your shoes on. And your kid all of a sudden forgets what shoes are, right? They can't find their shoes. They don't remember how to tie the knots in them. They don't remember how to do this. Oh, their sock is messed up and this. And in your mind, it's like, you're trying to make me late. You are getting in my way of getting where I'm supposed to go. You're doing this on purpose. You're being mean to me when that is not at all what our children are doing. That's not at all what they're doing, especially our autistic kids. They don't care about you being late. They're worried about the seam of their sock being correct. They're worried about, I want to wear this pair of shoes because those other ones don't feel good. And I'm trying to make sure I have a comfortable environment while I'm at school, which absolutely includes my feet. They're worried about, I want to wear my unicorn shoes because they light up and I like to look at how they light up while I'm at school. Nobody is trying to make you late. And so what I see with a lot of parents is they take what they think their kid is doing and they respond to that versus responding to what their kid is actually doing. So they're responding to, you're trying to make me late, so you're going to get punished for this. You hurry up, I'm going to drag you along, and all of this, instead of responding to what it actually is, they're just trying to accommodate themselves in what they're doing in that moment. If you help them with their shoes in a calm way, y'all can get out the door sooner. Nobody's angry. Nobody's fussing. Everything's fine. If you respond to what they're actually doing versus what you're attributing to them, then things would be a lot smoother. And I see that with parents of neurotypical children, but I especially see it with parents of autistic kids, and really, honestly, parents of ADHDers. They got that bad. Ooh, they have it bad. He's just scattered and he's not listening to what I'm saying because he doesn't care about what I'm saying. No, he heard you the first time. You just keep repeating it like he didn't hear you, and now he's looking off in space because he's already heard it 3 times already. It already sunk in 10 minutes ago. Like all of those things that they attribute, those negative things that they attribute to their kids, 9 times out of 10, that's not at all what your kid is doing. That's not at all what they're saying with their behavior. And so it's learning to listen to what they're actually telling you by learning how to listen to their behaviors. Because again, kids, they don't always have the vocabulary to take what's in their head and make it known. And so a lot of times the way that they communicate is through their behaviors. If you don't know how to listen, it's like you're sitting here speaking Mandarin to somebody who only understands English. If you don't know how to listen, if you don't know what to listen for, you're going to miss it every time. And so that's what I teach parents is I give you the language. I give you the ABCs. I give you the cheat codes to behavior so that you can actually interpret things accurately instead of interpreting things within your own bias.
Lisa Candera joined us for episodes 234 and 236. Lisa is a single mom, attorney, ADHDer, and autism mom coach, as well as the host of the Autism Mom podcast. She helps parents of autistic children regulate themselves first so that they can show up for their kids with compassion, clarity, and strength. Listen to Lisa's thoughts on the recent news linking autism to Tylenol and on the blame and guilt which moms often need to work through after their child has been diagnosed.
For me, it wasn't so much the linking of the Tylenol itself, because let's just say that that's possible, right? Let's just say, like, in a world where maybe there is something that we've ingested that has impacts or that could contribute. Okay, let's just say that that's true. There is a way of messaging that does not put the onus on the mother the way that this did. And that really just, I was expecting them to come out and say something about Tylenol because that was the lazy response. That information had already been out there. There had been lawsuits about it. And so to say, hey, we're going to figure out the cause for autism in 6 months and be like, oh, well, there's this other thing that people have already said, so we're just going to latch onto that. That's what I expected. And I didn't love it, but that's what I expected. But when there was the whole messaging about moms and toughing it out, I think that's just, I lost my mind on that. Like that was just so, here's what I do have to say what I liked about it. And I know this is a little bit crazy, is that as moms, we suspect this. We do suspect that people blame us. We do suspect that people look at us and think, what did you do? And that just was almost like confirmation of like, yes, that is absolutely what is happening. And so it brought back so many dark memories for me, because I remember when my son was diagnosed. I mean, the refrigerator mom theory has been debunked, but that means not that much. Like it's still out there.
Can you explain that just for people who might not be familiar?
Sure. So this was a theory that was out there for some time and it has been debunked, but the idea was that autism was caused by mothers who were cold or disconnected from their children. Now, when you have a child who is not connected to you or doesn't want you to hold them or touch them or won't look at you, and you are already feeling so helpless. And so to add on this idea and like you caused that is so damaging. And I have a couple of clients who went through, had pretty rough bouts of postpartum, post-pregnancy, and they really believe that that's why their child is autistic, because they weren't as available to their child in that moment, or that they could have been available in a different way. And so just because something is debunked, it's in the air, and it's among the questions that you're asked. When you go into a doctor's office, like you're asked a lot of different questions that kind of are on the fringe of, or sort of like, around that. And so I think that the idea that the mom is to blame has been out there in some way or shape or form forever. And this just like was like highlighting it and punctuating it. And, some people are like, oh, well, it's not really blaming the moms and things like that. It's like, no, the way that this will work out, the way that this will play out in day to day life for the moms of especially the kids who get diagnosed now and going forward, there's going to be that question. Did you take Tylenol? What did you do? And of course, that's always a question that we're posing to ourselves, like wondering if there was something, like that's like the human condition is like you want to find the reason for the thing. But if the reason for the thing is that you did something wrong and it's your fault, so many moms carry that with them in a really real way. And it undermines their ability to make decisions and really to trust themselves for the long term. And even if they're not consciously thinking of it, like when I think it's like some of this is just so cultural and it's so embedded in the way that we think about moms and children that you don't have to have someone saying, hey, moms, tough it out to know. But that for sure did definitely, again, highlight like, yeah, that is but what people are wondering, what did you do to cause this? What could you have done differently?
Yeah. And so how do you work with moms out of that blame mentality?
It's a really good question because I have worked with several moms who had very strong beliefs about what caused their child's autism, from where they worked to where they lived to the vaccinations and everything in between. It was never just one thing. Postpartum was another. And just really like letting them just process that and just explain to me out loud why they believe that. And sometimes as they explain it, they're able to say, yeah, but that really doesn't make sense for this reason. Or now looking back, like, I don't know if I would have made a different decision because of X, Y, or Z. And so they're able to, process it out loud. And sometimes that helps like sort of untangle some of these beliefs just a little bit. And then another thing that I like to talk to them about is like, what if you're wrong? Because you don't know. There is no litmus test that's going to tell you like that this is 100%. How would you treat yourself differently? What would be different for you? And just having them explore that little by little. It has never happened in one session, but over several sessions of just these kinds of conversations, I have had clients who have been like, you know what? Maybe, but also all of these things and just being able to unwind that bit by bit. Another thing I like to talk to them about is that like there is a strange comfort in being able to blame yourself because autism is so uncertain. And the idea that like if I caused this, then I need to fix it. Like there's something in there that protects us from the actual grief that we're feeling. And we would rather feel anger and self-blame than feel just that raw grief. And sometimes it's protecting us from that. And so I always work with them to explore that as well.
Right. And I guess, I've heard people say also that if there is like a culprit, if they can kind of point the finger at what it is, there could be a cure on the other side.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I completely get it. Look, I don't know what causes it. And I am not here to say that certain things don't exacerbate it in certain people. I think it's a soup and we don't know how it interacts. The randomness of it, when I think of it, is like I am one of 3 children and my youngest sister is autistic. She has 3 children. None of them are autistic. My sister and I, who are not autistic, both have autistic children.
Mm.
And, we all vaccinated. And so again, I'm not saying anything for or against any of that, but what causes it? I don't know. Right. And I don't know that we know. And I think for the most part, it's like once you're here, it's like, okay, it doesn't matter anymore of what causes it. Like this is the going forward. And that's the other thing I really was turned off by the whole Tylenol messaging because the other message could have been like, hey, we suspect that this medication that was government approved and you were permitted to ingest may have impacted you and your child. And here's what we're going to do to right that wrong or to support the families going forward who are dealing with this now. And there was none of that. It was just like, hey, mom, don't take Tylenol. That's how we're going to move forward from autism.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Episode 238 was about Black men in behavior analysis, featuring Jerron Trotman, Andre Anderson, Kelly Baird, and Marquis Jacobs. Here's Jerron Trotman, the president of BMBA, talking about what organizations can do to be more inclusive and welcoming towards professionals of color, and highlighting some of the challenges and misconceptions about autism that exist within the Black American community.
There's a couple of things. Build that inclusion and leadership into decision making is number one. So really look at diversifying your leadership team. I think it starts at the top, right? You got to have at the top leadership. So when you talk about advisory boards, when you talk about representation, look at your leadership and make sure that it's diverse, because I always say inclusion fails when it's siloed. So you got to strive to have that at the top before you have anything. And, we were leading in our field to a place where we were going to be doing a lot of trainings on cultural humility and diversity and inclusion. And unfortunately, that standard has been changed. The board kind of put out an announcement that we won't be needing those professional development and continuing education. It won't be required. But continue to still do the work. Continue to create culture responsive training and development. So have those at your facilities as well. Ongoing trainings about biases and equity, and not just kind of these one and done trainings where you kind of see it one time and then it's kind of done, right? You do it one time in a year. Have those be ongoing. Create mentorship pipelines for underrepresented staff. That's a big one as well. Create sponsorship opportunities as well for them. Look at your hiring practices. Look at your promotion criteria. Are people being left out? Are there things that are certain biases with people that are being promoted? Even things as small as like dress codes and family leave and holidays and flexibility, like all those things need to be taken into consideration when we're talking about how an organization at the top can really making sure that they're being responsive to that.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the way in which you're recruiting people as well, look at those procedures, look how that process is. Are you partnering with diverse organizations? Are you removing unnecessary barriers? Yeah, things like that. I feel like I have a lot more, but those are things as well. Events. One thing our organization do, we celebrate cultural events so that are meaningful in our workforce as well. So small stuff like that.
Let's talk a little bit about the challenges and misconceptions of autism within the Black community. What are some common narratives that you might hear, and what are some action steps to kind of break that stigma?
In the Black community, man, even when I was coming up, I think, when people looked at autism in the Black community, I mean, I hate to say it, but we didn't always take it serious from a cultural aspect. Kind of even growing up, even 30 years ago, you thought, oh, a kid is maybe just being bad and, culture, we just need to, give them a spanking or do something like that, and they'll be better, That's just kind of really what it was. So that was hard. And then, that can also delay diagnoses because we weren't willing to accept maybe certain, and we didn't have the information either in the Black community. And so there was a lot of that going on, misdiagnosis, people really just kind of saying that some of these kids were just being defiant, like they didn't really know kind of what was going on. In our community, that's how it was. That's how it was growing up. So too often, people with behavior challenges were just viewed from a disciplinary lens instead of a developmental one, right? That's a big deal. So now what does this do? This delays access to early intervention, which we know is critical.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're looking at it that way, then it's going to delay access. In the Black community, there's this really big stigma around neurodiversity and mental health. And this involves cultural narratives that have been rooted in survival and strength for our own culture. So we pretty much, for a long time, have silenced neurodivergent experiences. Again, they'll grow out of it. They'll say, well, they'll grow out of it at some point. He just needs to be disciplined, or they don't want to be labeled. Don't label our kids, because we have a history of when labels happen, what that may happen to them after that. And you go across the board from history, from the trust hasn't been built with the medical process, things like the Tuskegee experiment, for those who know about that. Like, there's been a history of trauma within our community as well. So, but these beliefs historically protected Black families from harboring labeling systems, I would say, in our eyes. But again, today, having that mindset can prevent access to treatment, especially early on. So that is a big deal. Again, we've had a mistrust for medical and educational systems from the beginning of history, because that learning history has been invalid, right? So we're hesitant to seek out evaluations because of the things that have been told to us, and we just don't have that trust, right? So there's also barriers that we face, kind of when it comes to certain things, insurance gaps, and in some areas there are purely culturally competent providers in our areas as well, which kind of limits access when it comes to autism. So it's just so many misconceptions in our community that I think that we're finally starting to really kind of come along. But this notion that autism looks a certain way for us is a big deal, because autism for a long time was a stereotype that it only impacts maybe white boys, right? But it doesn't impact black boys, right? And so when you have that mindset, it erases black autistic boys, black autistic girls, non-speaking individuals that may have something, black autistic adults. So when you were talking about representation earlier at the beginning of this conversation, that's why representation matters. That's why awareness matters, of being aware of these things that we're talking about within our community. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot. It's you can kind of dive deep into it, but I think that we are moving in the right direction to start understanding why we have certain belief systems, why our learning history is such, and to kind of get out of some of those stigma and stereotypes from the Black community because of our learning history that we believe.
Last but certainly not least, episode 240 was a special Thanksgiving episode in which we shared the launch of our new international mentorship program. In the following clips, you'll hear from the Global Autism Project CEO, Maliola Pinney, plus a few members of our international mentorship program, Selassie Esezobor from Ghana, Sohani Figueroa from Honduras, and Alex Igundunase from Canada.
This is a program that actually had been sort of floating around on our all the ideas section of our project management software. And we're like, we should do something like that. We should do something like that. And it was really born out of demand, right? There are now so many people around the world who are working with the autistic community. And there are just still a lack of resources when it comes to access to learning how to not only do the clinical work, although we've seen a huge improvement in clinical services and training available, but really in how to run a sustainable business, how to start an organization in a place where there's little understanding of autism, certainly little understanding of ABA and other therapy methods. And really, this program was about not only giving people access to that training, but building a community as well. Because I think the biggest thing that I have heard for over 20 years now is people feel really alone. They feel really isolated. Sometimes they don't realize that the next country over, someone's actually doing the same thing and a few steps ahead of them. And so this was all about just building our global network.
My name is Selassie Esezobor, and I live in Accra, Ghana, specifically Kuntunsi. I am an international behavior analyst providing applied behavior analysis therapy services to children, both neurotypical and neurodivergent. I hold a master's degree in social psychology and began my ABA career 7 years ago as a behavior technician in an inclusive school that offered speech, occupational therapy, physio, and ABA therapy services. I served as the lead BT and later became the head of the ABA department. I completed a BCBA coursework at Florida Institute of Technology, that's FIT, and subsequently became the deputy head of a multiple disciplinary team of 19 therapists. I obtained my IBA certification under the IBAO in 2021 and have continued to provide ABA therapy services since then. 2 years ago, I founded the Behavior Hub, an ABA organization that provides ABA therapy services to children in homes and schools. We also offer facilitation services in schools where our trained behavior technicians support students to effectively participate in class activities. I am excited about the International Mentorship Program because I see it as an opportunity to gain guidance and access to the necessary resources to effectively run and scale my center. This growth will allow us to train more individuals and expand the availability of high-quality services for the autism community. I hope to see an ecosystem of well-trained professionals who possess the right skills to deliver meaningful and effective services to the autistic community in Ghana. By equipping professionals, parents, and caregivers with the appropriate knowledge and resources, I believe we can ensure that autistic individuals receive the quality of support they truly deserve. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sohani Figueroa. I live in Honduras in the city of Tegucigalpa. I have a bachelor's degree in speech pathology and I am working in my master's program in applied behavior analysis. I'm also working towards my QBA certification and I have my IBT credential, International Behavior Therapist credential. I have a center in the capital of Honduras. It is called ABA Honduras. We support children and teenagers on the autism spectrum. We provide parent training, community, and schools training. By being part of this collaboration with the Global Autism Project, I am really excited about this opportunity to be part of the mentorship program. I believe it will help me grow professionally and the way I can improve the quality of the services I provide. My commitment for the autistic community in Honduras is access to high quality, ethical, evidence-based services, greater awareness and acceptance. Definitely, I want to create a more inclusive opportunities for children and their families that I support. That is why I'm looking forward to all of the learning and collaboration from the Global Autism Project. Thank you.
I am Alex Igundanase, a behavioral consultant based here in Canada. My work is rooted in a steadfast commitment to advocating for, supporting, and improving the lives of individuals with autism. Each day at my center, I strive to create a compassionate, structured, and empowering environment where clients and their families can access meaningful and person-centered care. This work has shaped my professional identity and deepened my belief in the transformative impact of informed, ethical, and indeed evidence-driven practice. The International Mentorship Program resonates strongly with me because it offers a dynamic space for professional growth, collaboration, and sustained learning. I view it as an opportunity to exchange insights with colleagues across the globe, refine my clinical approach, and indeed elevate the services I deliver. Ultimately, my goal is to help shape the Canadian landscape where autistic individuals have access to the highest quality of evidence-based interventions that support and respect their dignity, enhance their independence, and also enables them to thrive in their communities. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. As I was reflecting on these past episodes from 2025, I was overcome with immense gratitude for our community. A huge thank you to our guests for sharing their stories, to you, our listeners, for your continued support, and to our team for their incredible work behind the scenes. Special thanks to Aljan Medania for helping to manage guest communications, and to our community moderators this year, Adrian Sanchez and Bob Schmoose, for monitoring posts and keeping our global autism community's online space safe and respectful. If you didn't listen to part 1 of this year's highlights, or are curious about what we were up to in previous years, you can find links to all of our highlight series in our show notes. For the rest of the month, we're going to release autism tips and tools and a couple throwbacks to close out the year. From all of us at the Global Autism Project, we wish you a happy and safe holiday season and hope you can spend some quality time with your loved ones. Thanks for listening. Take care.